What's going on, guys? Welcome to Dead Town Duo Podcast, episode number 26, version 2.0.
Yeah, so we're leading right out of the gate with that, huh?
Yeah.
Cat's out of the bag.
Third attempt at recording this podcast.
Well, let's be honest. Third attempt is being a little bit
All right,
over
we don't record on
dramatic.
Wednesdays. It's Friday night.
Okay. Yeah, 1 hour plus of what we recorded last night, gone, corrupted. So this is attempt, I guess, 3, 4, whatever you want to call it, at recording. You know, we have not had this issue before. Like, in 25 episodes prior, we have not had one time where a file got corrupted or
Yeah.
the audio was so bad that we couldn't use it or anything like that. That just never happened, but 26 was it. So if anything we're about to cover sounds like we've already talked about it before, that's probably why.
Because we have.
So,
But in lighter news,
yeah.
DCD t-shirts. Check them out.
And boy, it already feels like deja vu. So link is in the description of our podcast, audio only, or if you're watching the video version, there is always a link in there. You can buy a DCD t-shirt. They are only $18 currently. Sometimes they go on sale for $13. And when you buy one of those, we get somewhere between $4 and $6 to go ahead and support the podcast. And this show currently costs us about $15 a month to actually host. But then I would also tell you that we put a tremendous amount of time into this thing too. So, you know, buy a t-shirt. You get a t-shirt, you support the podcast. It's great. Yeah, try it out, man. So let's go directly in the listener questions if you're okay with that, Andy. Unless you have anything.
Listener question.
Yeah. So
how's your week? I mean, they don't know because I know how your week went because we may or may not have talked about all these topics yesterday.
All I'm gonna say is, man, I've been stressed out to the max, and I'm sick of it. And I hope things get better, and I think they will. These things usually pass, but a lot of things have had to take a back seat. I don't remember the last time I recorded a YouTube video, and I don't even remember the last time I streamed. And it's just because other things have been taking over, so it's been a lot of stress.
Avengers
But
week for me,
trying to get stuff, see, there you go. So, like, for me, it's usually the same type of thing. Work kind of takes over everything, and Avengers is out for you, and I know that's like crunch time for you guys. So how's that going?
Thursday night, which opening night always sucks compared to Friday night. The confirmed numbers for Thursday night was 2,230, which is insane.
So how many theaters?
12.
So
And they all seat roughly around 200.
how many total theaters are in your...
The only one.
Well, no, but like how many individual rooms? So like, for example...
12. That's what I said. 12.
And they dedicate all of them to Avengers?
Only 5. The rest of them, we canceled everything. There's only 5 rooms. We just did our 5 biggest rooms.
Okay.
And yeah, that's fun.
That's insane, dude. Was Friday as big or...
Well, as an opener. And currently it is Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So far, it's been pretty busy. But I don't know. It's them at night. Night's always busy because, people still working. But we had a long line for a 9 a.m. showing. The 9 a.m. showing sold out. So
I could imagine. I saw a lot of people very early on Twitter this morning talking about going to see the movie. I would assume there's a lot of people who work maybe a night shift or like an afternoon shift in retail. Like maybe you go in at 1 and you close down a retail store at about 10, so you might see it before you go to work.
3-hour movie.
I will not be seeing it. So I'll probably wait till it hits home release, and then I'll watch it then.
I know the ending.
Well, please don't spoil it, LaShawn McCoy. But
Wolverine dies at the end.
That's so funny. And then, like, I actually watch it, and Hugh Jackman's there. That would be great.
I'm making a joke. I got someone. They're like, I always get customers like that. I'm like, have you seen it yet? And I'll be like, nah, but I know what happens. And they're like, oh, don't tell me. I'll be like, man, Batman just doesn't make it. It's unfortunate.
Sucks, man. Sucks when
Yeah.
that happens. Batman v Wolverine.
What's the Namor? Yeah, Namor shows up. The Aquaman equivalent to MCU.
I don't even know what that
I
is.
think it's Namor or something like that.
No.
There's that Marvel Aquaman. And I think it's Namor. Oh, Namor shows up. Super popular character.
I don't know, man. I'm so far behind on all the MCU stuff.
Oh, that's never been in a movie.
Oh, okay.
It's
I'm just so far behind. I don't know. Like for all I know, Dupe from X-Force could be in MCU, and I would be none the wiser. By the way, they should make an X-Force movie. Just saying. I think that'd be cool.
Deadpool movie.
I think that'll be cool.
Well, Deadpool 2 was basically.
Yeah. See, I like Deadpool 1 and 2. I thought they were really good and really well made. And I hate that Deadpool cosplayers have kind of ruined that movie and that character. But I still like both movies. Own them both on 4K. Worth it. So,
Listener question number 1.
yeah.
From Spoon Sandwich, otherwise known as Girard. If you could pick one internet personality to guest the show, you guys, who would you pick? I've read that completely wrong, but the unanimous answer amongst us, which was a big reveal to Alex when we first recorded this, is obviously Wings of Redemption or Jordy Jordan.
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be Wings. You know, I've heard he has an open offer on the table. He said it in the stream. I don't know if he'd actually go through with this, but he's basically said that if you are in his hometown, he will meet you and like eat Wendy's with you. And if I'm ever in that section of the country, I think I'm gonna see if he'll meet me, and eat Wendy's chili with me or something.
Maybe we're in the Myrtle Beach area.
Yeah, Conway, South Carolina. I've only driven through South Carolina.
South Kakalaki to.
Whenever.
Oh, yeah.
So if it's not Wings, who's your other pick? Who'd be your second pick?
I went with Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan's a good one. That was definitely my top 5, and then my pick would have been Alex Jones. I would love to pick Alex Jones' brain on things.
I mean, to break the fourth wall. This seems so scripted. I don't know why.
It does seem scripted.
It's weird.
I feel like we rehearsed it before. I feel like we're just going to have to just go off track at some point.
I mean, we already have. Like, we didn't talk about Marvel stuff that much. I mean, we did. But
it's fine. Like, I reserve the right to skip some topics.
We did get into a genuine debate, and that's not going to happen again.
That kind of sucks, because I feel like that was a good moment. But anyway, we could fake it, but I don't feel like it'll come across well. Also, I'll just give Colbster, a.k.a. Colby, shout out. He asked, which do we prefer, spoons or forks? I like to ride the fence on this to say I like a spork, but if I had to pick, I'd probably just take a fork. Andy?
As I said,
so bad.
Spoons suck. Spoons are inferior to sporks, but sporks are inferior to forks.
There's a hierarchy.
The fork part of the spork isn't a good fork, but the spoon part of the spork is a good spoon.
Yeah. You know what's funny is we're sitting here kind of low-key criticizing spoons, and our first listener question came from a guy named Spoon Sandwich, so...
But if we're eating spoons, like...
There you go.
In a sandwich.
Yeah, I hate spoon sandwich. I prefer fork salad.
I like a little, crunch, or like a... I don't know, like a little, it gets your tongue stabbed while you're eating.
Oh, like basically eating Captain Crunch, huh? Like where it just completely cuts up the whole inside of your mouth, but you're like, oh, this is delicious, so I'll eat it anyway. Or like when people put Doritos on a sandwich. Like, it's wonderful. Or like, here's a good one. Taco Bell was putting Fritos in burritos for a while.
Hey.
And that sounds like a great idea.
They still do that.
It's delicious.
Two, the loaded nacho taco is amazing.
See, that one's not so bad because it's in a taco. But when it's in a burrito, when you put Fritos inside of a burrito, it just cuts up everything. It's like
But
razor.
it rhymes.
It's delicious.
It's on the $1 menu.
It's like delicious razors in your mouth. And then, like, one thing that I hate about Taco Bell, and this is why I never get sour cream on anything I order from there, is they always put all the sour cream. Yeah, they always put it like in one little pocket.
What's your favorite burrito from Taco Bell?
Oh,
I'm going favorite 5-layer bean burrito.
So that's a good one. My favorite of all time would be it was a limited time thing, and they called it the cheesy bean and rice burrito. And then they got rid of it. That was my favorite. No, see, that one's the
There's a cheesy something burrito on the dollar menu.
Yeah, it's a different version though. It came out in the early 2000s. You know what? My favorite Taco Bell burrito would be the Chilito, but they don't make it anymore.
What about quesarito?
I feel like the quesarito's cheating.
Is it?
I feel like it's cheating because it's not quite a burrito, but it's not quite a quesadilla.
What's your favorite burrito place?
Qdoba. Qdoba. I think Qdoba's like the best.
I've never gone to a genuine burrito place.
Well, okay, genuine place. If we're talking about like mom and pop place, there's a place here in Orlando called.
Like I've never been to like a. We have a Qdoba where I live, and then when we're going to school, there's a Chipotle. I've never gone to.
So, if we're talking about like actual chains that are burrito places, at least here in Florida, there's only 3. You've got, I mean, Taco Bell I don't count because Taco Bell is like a whole thing, but like they have all kinds of food. But like Qdoba, Chipotle, Moe's. And if I had to establish a ranking, I would go Qdoba number 1, Moe's number 2, Chipotle number 3. Because down here, the Chipotles, they are like so tight on like no extra rice, no extra black beans, no nothing. Like you get this little tiny burrito. I hate that. Qdoba, they'll give you extra everything free of charge other than meat. They have an upcharge for that. Same thing with Moe's. But yeah, when it comes to Taco Bell, my favorite burrito would be the Chilito. If I had to pick something off of the current menu, I love the grilled stuffed burrito without
the rattlesnake.
No, dude, the grilled stuffed burrito. It's been around forever.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's one of their I think it's the number 1 on the value menu here in Florida, and it's like a grilled burrito that has basically everything, and I order it without the guac and the sour cream. But it has rice, beans, ground beef, you could get chicken, you could get.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are the $5 boxes $5 for you?
$5 plus tax.
I went to a different Taco Bell, and the $5 box was $6.80.
Yeah, dude, like sometimes you'll go to one of those Taco Bells that is like, we call them off the grid fast food restaurants. They're the ones that don't stick to the corporate pricing. There is one in my area that does that. You go there and the prices are like $1 or $2 more. It's not a $5 box if it costs $6. I'm sorry.
To get a $5 box.
That's silly.
AKA where I work.
That's ridiculous. So
all right.
That last segment was dedicated to Ben Copenhaver, fast food aficionado Ben Copenhaver. Yeah. Hope he's watching or listening. What?
He's still at Best Buy.
He's still at Best Buy trying to figure out how to build that. Ben, I love you, man. I was talking to him and
he's waiting on the Black Friday sale.
I was talking to him in Twitter DMs about Madden Ultimate Team earlier tonight. So, but he didn't end up building that gaming PC. But I'm mad because we sat there and we talked about that gaming PC for hours on my stream and we never built it. But whatever, neither here nor there. Anyway, moving on to entertainment.
Like
what?
So we talked about my PC for like 20 minutes and then we built it.
Well, yeah, I was actually fun story about that. When you were looking at prospectively building your PC, I went on Newegg And I was like, I was looking at the parts and I was like, what would I build if I was trying to do what Andy was doing? And I came up with the most bargain bin build that I could for everything except for video processing, where like it was splurge city. Like, we want the best processor, we want the best RAM, graphics card, screw that, we're not using this for gaming. It is pretty nice. It is pretty nice. I mean, it ran Fortnite pretty well. It ran, well, I didn't get to test World of Warcraft on it. You wouldn't let me install it.
I think you tried to download it. And
I did.
Put a password on.
I did. You left it a fun story about Andy. We built a PC, and it was kind of sitting hooked up to like this little tiny monitor that I have at the house that I use for a couple different things. But we hooked Andy's PC up to it, and he left it unlocked. And I'm like, this is my chance. He went downstairs to do something, I don't know. And I'm like, this is my chance. And I'm like, I had World of Warcraft about 20% installed. Then he canceled it, put a password on the PC. I wanted to run World of Warcraft on that thing so bad.
4K World of Warcraft.
Dude, it would have been great because that thing has a 8700K in it. It's a beautiful processor, and World of Warcraft's such a processor heavy game, so like it would have been brilliant to run World of Warcraft on that. But hey, you know, maybe next time, if you ever find yourself coming down to Florida, pack that PC in the car, and we could do it.
All right, going into the next topic.
Yeah.
We have from Alexander. What is your favorite album of all time, and why?
Oh, yeah, I'll do mine first. We'll reverse it this time. Maybe we get more out of this one. But mine is Bad Motorfinger from Soundgarden. I grew up listening to grunge rock, Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, Green Day, Soundgarden. Wasn't really a big Pearl Jam fan. Like all those 90s rock bands, a lot of them being grunge, some of them being alternative rock, but Soundgarden was always my favorite. I've listened to that album countless times. I think it's really the peak of what grunge rock can be. I felt like it was a good medium between grunge rock is typically more indie sounding versus commercial. I felt like that was a good mix. They had some good hits on there. They had some good B-sides on there. Guitar work was excellent. Vocal work was excellent. Andy, what's yours?
Yeah, I got the exact opposite genre.
Yeah.
Man on the Moon. I got to preface this. I don't have a favorite album because I grew up in the iTunes era and I never listened to albums fully until maybe 2 years ago, something like that. So, I just have a bunch of random picks. Man on the Moon, Then a Day by Kid Cudi, Life Pablo, and also Graduation by Kanye, Watch the Throne by Jay-Z and Kanye, Floyd by Tyler the Creator. If I had to pick an album to be my favorite of all time, Good Kid Lamar, the greatest rapper alive.
All good picks. All good picks. I didn't really, when I phrased this question, I didn't realize that most people that listen to this, and even you, co-host of the podcast, grew up in an era where buying an album wasn't really a thing.
I've never bought an album.
Yeah, like you mostly downloaded your music off of like iTunes or maybe streamed it or things like that.
Something I didn't mention yesterday. I could say "Damn" by Kendrick Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
One of his newer albums, because I remember there was one day my senior year, we're taking like a practice ACT. As a senior, I've already taken it, but they made everyone take it.
Yeah.
So the whole school was taking it on like their computers. I went through, guessed all the answers, called my mom to let me go home, and I went home and listened to Damn. Like it just released that day. I don't know. That's a memory I associate to an album.
I have some pretty good memories that are associated with albums, like, and they kind of make me like the album more than I probably should. So, for example, ICP, the Amazing Jekyll Brothers. Like, it's not really a great album, but I listen to that album a lot.
If next episode you show up in an ICP face paint, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I used to be really, and I still do like their music, and I like a lot of the acts that they're associated with, like, for example, Twisted. I still think they're really good, but the album that I'm talking about with ICP, like, I guess I just have really good memories of it because I hurt my foot, like, really bad when I was 19. Just sliced it open and had to get a bunch of stitches in the bottom of my foot. Couldn't work for like 2 weeks while it was healing. And I would just sit there and listen to that album and play Phantasy Star Online on Xbox. Those were good times, man. Those were good times.
The only thing ICP reminds me of is, did you know what FYE is?
Oh, yeah, man.
I went to an FYE when I was a kid, and I wanted to buy Backyard Wrestling 2, and there's gigolos in that game. Or gigolos.
Juggalos.
Juggalos.
Yeah.
There's probably gigolos in the game too, let's be honest. That was a weird game.
Probably.
But I wasn't able to get it.
I think that game was rated M. So if you were a kid, I know FYE was kind of like GameStop. They had a very strict policy on that.
Oh, no, my grandma wouldn't buy it, that's why.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I had to play Call of Duty Big Red One instead.
That's a good game, though. I feel like that's a better game than Backyard Wrestling 2. I can't... Speaking of games, Apex Legends is dying, apparently. Andy's put that as a topic.
What a... Just... awful transition.
I thought it was good.
It was just, like, so abrupt. Alright, Apex Legends is dying. Based off of Google search results and Twitch viewership, Apex Legends is just completely dying as Fortnite stays steady. And what I was asking was, do you think it's because of lack of meaningful updates? Because they've only added a gun and a character to the game and they've done 3 updates, and all 3 of those updates you can argue were made the game worse, and the game has become bland because of that.
I don't know. I haven't played it, but I will say the interest seems to have waned on that game. I kind of wonder if it's a cautionary tale for the future. And since we're covering this topic again, I kind of want to ask you this question that I don't think I asked last night. So it's on record that they spent a lot of money, millions of dollars, to get influencers to play this game. Would, if you're EA or if you're some other company, would you ever do this with another game? Do you think it paid off?
Yeah and no.
Okay.
It paid off by the fact that it was the most viewed game in Twitch history the month of its peak. Like, it had the biggest month in Twitch history of any game ever. Bigger than, like, when Drake played Fortnite.
That's true.
But on the other end, no matter how popular you are, if the product isn't... If you don't... You just, I don't know. Games, you have to update games, especially in the Battle Royale scene. Like, the Battle Royale concept is a bland concept, and the only reason why it stays popular is because they add stuff to it. Like, jetpacks and golf carts you can push around in Fortnite, and that's all. Like, if you don't add anything, the game becomes boring, because the concept, the Battle Royale mode itself is bland.
I can imagine. I think that one of the common criticisms that I've seen from older gamers like myself on Fortnite is that it's incredibly repetitive and
Fortnite.
Yeah, and it's like kind of redundant. And I get that because I've been, that guy who played Fortnite for a week and just said it feels like after about an hour of this, like, I feel like I'm just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, which quite honestly you are. And I know most people would kind of backfire and say, well, hey, you do that in a lot of other games. But I think that what has made Fortnite successful is that it continually evolves. Like, I see stuff on Twitter that people post that they have in Fortnite now. It's totally different than when I played the game in season 1.
They
So,
add stuff every week.
but you've got to keep doing that. And, like, I won't make this a
Apex
segue,
has had, what? It's been out for 3 months. Late January, early February, I think.
yeah.
And it's had 3 updates. And those updates, they haven't added anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to continuously evolve. I think it's not really that different from Madden Ultimate Team, where what EA does with Madden Ultimate Team to keep people interested in it is they keep releasing new cards that they think people are going to want. They do it every year. Interest starts to wane. Here's a Michael Vick card that everybody wants. Or here's a Chris Johnson card that everybody wants. They always, Deion Sanders.
Imagine if the Ultimate Team didn't add a single card. Or maybe added 2 cards in 3 months.
The game would be a ghost town. Because I'll tell you right now, like, that game is 100% built around...
And that has happened before.
Big weekly content drops.
Isn't exactly that, but MLB The Show 18... They had the Mortals, the 99 overall cards that were there day 1, and everything. Even if they released something, the Mortal cards are better.
Yeah.
By the time everyone got the Immortals, no one cared.
I remember that was kind of a big thing. NBA 2K kind of went through that as well, where, 2K, Take-Two, they were not really doing much content after the NBA season wrapped. Madden Ultimate Team has been guilty of it too. They've really tried to make it a 365-day a year game, but it's really it's just really difficult to do that with any game, especially a sports game. But Apex Legends, man, I don't know. I hope it turns around for them because I really like that developer, specifically because they made Titanfall, and I like Titanfall, and I thought it was a good game, but it's just a shame.
I don't know if there's any news on this, but speaking of Respawn Entertainment, they're owned by Electronic Arts. Another game of theirs is basically dying. Anthem has delayed all future content.
So we talked about this last night, and then I did more research on it, and I got more sad. The more research on this I did, I was like really sad.
Tell me the more research, boss.
So it was a limited time. I forget the name of the event. It was supposed, and it was,
so it's something like that.
And they promised it this month, and yeah, something like that. Cataclysm.
Yeah, that's probably it. Cataclysm.
So they kept promising that it was going to drop in April, and like we're really getting close to the end of April, and people were like, we don't think it's going to happen, and they announced it's just getting delayed. So I just feel bad for those people because and I've seen already Anthem, especially the premium edition of the game with included DLC, has gotten heavily discounted online at several retailers. And the player base is they're not really that mad. I think they're just more disappointed. And when I was looking at people's reactions on Twitter, they were just really just not even mad. Like I said, just upset, like distraught. They put time and money into this game, and it's just they don't know when they're getting what they're supposed to get.
That's not we didn't say.
Mm-hmm.
Last time.
Mm-hmm.
Has BioWare messed up their last 4 games? When's the last time BioWare had a good launch?
I would say Mass Effect 3.
But that had a lot of heat because the ending. Everyone hated the ending.
Well,
I think Dragon Age Inquisition, that one game of the year.
Okay, well then there you go. But I thought the Mass Effect original trilogy was outstanding. I think it's one of the best trilogies in all of gaming. I liked the original ending. I get why they did the original ending. I also get why they did it as a fan service. They went back and changed things. I still have yet to play Andromeda, so I can't really hold out on that one. But
there have been Shadow Realms, which got canceled. Mass Effect Andromeda, which had a very awful start full of glitches and stuff.
Yeah.
And now this.
I don't know, man. Like, the rumor has been that BioWare is kind of experiencing developer burnout. Maybe that's the case, but at the end of the day, it just stinks to see that happen.
EA, though.
What do you mean?
Battlefront 2. It seems like this is just an ongoing trend that EA games just have awful launches.
So the problem with EA is they ride developers really hard, and I know that from being an employee at EA Tiburon in the not early 2000s, the mid 2000s. They worked that developer team at Tiburon to the bone, to the point where I know people who were involved in a lawsuit against EA about them not paying overtime, but having people working 80-hour work weeks, things like that. These were guys that worked on Madden, NCAA, NASCAR, NBA Live, The Sims, when they absorbed, God, what's the name of that company that made The Sims? I forget the name of them at the moment. Maxis, I think. Yeah, it was Maxis. It was their own company. Sims was owned. Sim everything. Sim City, The Sims, all that. It was one company that was not owned by EA. EA bought it, and I think they turned it to EA Maxis. And I want to say the original name of the company was Maxis. But, like, they work people to the bone. They've been sued for it in the past. And I could see EA as a publisher doing the same thing to a developer that lives under that umbrella. And I think that's where the burnout comes from. In Battlefront, I know there are people out there that are listeners who I've disagreed with on this from the get-go, but they literally built the game around microtransactions. Yeah. And they should have had the foresight to know that people were going to hate that. And they did.
This gives me concerns for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Well, I put out a tweet on that, and I was surprised at how many impressions it got and how much feedback that I got from people about this. When they announced that game, they announced the game in a tweet, and then like immediately they replied to that tweet to start a thread, and they said, by the way, there's going to be no DLC, or like there's going to be no transactions, no
single player game,
no loot boxes, all that. And I said, like, how backwards is it that they're pitching that almost as if it's a feature? Like, we're expecting this now. Like, we almost go into games expecting loot boxes and expecting microtransactions. And when they announce it, they're almost expecting everybody to go, oh, yes, thank you, EA. When in reality, like, it shouldn't always be that way. And by the way, games can be done without microtransactions and loot boxes and still be really fun to play. Look no further. Perfect example. Sekiro, another really good example to me. Single player game, doesn't need any of that nonsense, and it can be great. And I'm sure From Software made a ton of money on that game. And I'm sure, I know this for a fact, I know Take-Two made a lot of money on Red Dead. So,
oh, it had the biggest opening weekend in entertainment history.
Rightfully so.
Movie, games, music, everything.
Rightfully so. And I would assume that they sold a ton.
As of April 11th, Sekiro has 2 million copies sold.
Well deserved. Well deserved. I hope they sell double that. It's such a great game. Such a great game.
It was the biggest Steam launch of 2019 with 125,000 concurrent players.
Single player's not dead, man. That's all I'm going to say. Single player's not dead. There's been enough games that have come out recently. I know Red Dead has multiplayer now, but it launched with no multiplayer. And there's games like
Yeah.
Wolfenstein.
They messed up the multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean
They were
you can skip out on multiplayer and still make a great
to
game.
to comparison with Sekiro and the other From Software games. Dark Souls 1 sold 2.37 million copies in the first 18 months. Dark Souls 2 sold 2.5 in a year, and Dark Souls 3 sold 3 million in 3 months. So it looks to be one of their best-selling games. Well, is their best-selling game.
I will also say that they
They
put a
sold
lot
2
of
million
money.
copies in 10 days.
They put a lot of money into advertising. That game was getting advertised all over the place on TV, YouTube, all that. They did a great job of advertising it too. The advertisements made it look like a very
They
cool
also
game,
dominated Twitch too.
as it should. As it should. So, I'm going to skip the Madden topic because I don't really feel like talking about Madden. Let's talk about DCD Film Club this week. It was Andy's pick, and we covered Donnie Darko from 2001.
Gotta pick an Easter movie because it was Easter.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a bunny in Donnie Darko, so... Go with Donnie Darko, 2001. Directed by Richard Kelly. It's the only thing he's done that's good or relevant. Really, like, there's nothing else. There's a Donnie Darko sequel that I have not seen that apparently has to do with, but
I saw it. I didn't. I saw that it had a sequel, and I was like, I didn't know there was one of these.
This sucks. I have to re-record this. It's
I
so
know.
fun, like getting like a genuine reaction out of you. But I think this movie is incredible. Has amazing acting. The visuals are awesome. The soundtrack, I guess it's soundtrack, not score, is iconic. And without getting into much spoilers, is much all I can really say. Amazing ending. Very thought provoking. Without spoiling it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love the visual aesthetic on this movie. You mentioned the soundtrack. I've always enjoyed the music of Tears for Fears. They're heavily featured in the soundtrack to this movie. And between the way they filmed it, the soundtrack itself, the vocabulary that the actors and actresses use, the way they interact with each other, the clothing, the wardrobe, everything really feels very 80s. And one thing was I felt very immersed watching this movie. I mean, they were talking about, like, they made a reference to Back to the Future. And it just, I really felt like I was back in the 80s. As a kid who grew up in I was born in the mid 80s, grew up in the late 80s and early 90s. This was a real treat. And I think it's Jake Gyllenhaal's best performance that I've seen other than Brokeback Mountain. I thought he was really exceptional in that. And yeah.
My favorite is Nightcrawler.
That's a good one too. And I agree with you on that. I've always found Brokeback Mountain to be a great movie overall, because it's written by a novelist who I really enjoy her work. But this was a great performance by Jake Gyllenhaal. I see how it kind of opened a lot of doors for him in his career, and rightfully so. And what I really liked about this movie is it surprised me. Without going into too many spoilers, I guess we'll get into that. We'll eventually get into that. But basically the first half hour of this movie, I thought this was a teen movie. And I thought it was a teen movie for two reasons. One, I've never seen this movie before. Two, the people that had told me that I need to see this are people who watch a lot of teen movies.
Hey.
Well, no, I'm not talking about you.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I'm not talking about you necessarily, Riverdale boy. But like serious.
That's just trash.
Yeah. But seriously, like
it, but it's
but all jokes aside, like most of the people that had told me that I should watch this were the same people who would tell me that Zack and Miri Make a Porno is one of their favorite movies of all time. So that's
a pretty good movie.
It's okay, but I mean, like, let's just be honest. It's comedy and it's kind of a junk movie. It's junk food. It's a junk food movie. It's like, It's like
It's
Ant-Man. There's nothing to Ant-Man. It's just a junk food movie. No, I'm just saying, like, nothing wrong with MCU, but it's just an action movie.
What?
Road Trip. It's like that.
What's the guilty pleasure movie? That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was expecting from this movie. I just thought that it would have a little bit of a sci-fi twist or whatever. So for the first half hour, I'm thinking this is a teen movie, and it kind of feels like that through the first half hour. And then it turns into this great thriller drama with a time travel story, like, underneath all of this. So it ends up being this really cool layered story that I really enjoyed. It actually made me enjoy the teenage movie stuff around it. Like, it makes the whole package worthwhile. It's really cool how they did it. So overall, I really enjoyed this one. I know I'm way late to the party. This is 18 years after it came out, but I'm sad I didn't watch it sooner.
I was 2 when it came out.
That's crazy.
Nope, sorry. Yeah, actually, I was 2. Now looking at the date.
It's crazy to think that, because like when I said 18 years, I'm like, holy crap, this movie would be going to college right now.
Yeah, I'm I forgot to ask you last night, and I kind of like that we recorded this. I know, I'm prefer the genuine reaction more, but how'd you feel about the Patrick Swayze tapes that they showed in class? Did you experience that in high school or middle school?
Oh yeah, man.
Did it feel real, like spot on? I've heard it's like spot on, but obviously I don't know. I was born in that era.
So like, you're talking about the tapes that they played, and it was kind of like
the fear. You got to overcome your fear.
That's it was like,
but not really spoilery.
It was like that weird motivational speaker, but also kind of a guy who like is gonna put you on a program that only costs $19.99 or something, or like, we need you to come out to the convention center for a 3-day seminar, that kind of. Dude, I'm dead serious when I say this. Not only would they play stuff like that in schools, on VCRs, on a TV that was like strapped to. They always make fun of it in TV shows. Like you go into class and there'd be the TV there with the VCR, and you'd be like, oh, it's gonna be a easy day in class today. Like, they used to play things like that, like the propaganda, whether it would be like anti-drug or anti-bullying or
Dare.
Dare was a really good one.
We had Dare.
And then another thing they would do is, and sometimes it would be good, and sometimes it would be like, this guy's a con artist or this person's a con artist. Like, they would have speakers come to the school, and everybody from the school would just gather up and go, and they'd listen to this yokel talk for 3 hours or whatever about some stupid thing. Yeah. And sometimes it would be something good, and then sometimes it would be like a fundraiser. Schools, man, it was like, what I liked about this was the guy doing the tapes was a con artist. He was found out to be a complete lie, right? And he was doing it for financial gain for the most part. And he's trying to get into the schools because he's like, well, these are my next round of customers. You know how many... And
also, it comes out in the movie, not get spoilery.
Yeah.
The kids are...
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
You know how many times there would be like these really shady fundraisers that would show up to our schools asking us to go door to door and sell stuff for them.
We never had like a person like that in my school.
Yeah,
we had like people come play Magic. Like the guy threw cards around. Like there's like a card stuck in the. But I went to a school. My first year of high school is the first year of high school of this like a grand opening of a new high school. And it was a 5A school, so it's basically the best public school you can get without it being a private school. And the only similar thing is we had this guy named Israel James. He was a Z-list rapper, and he made a rap song for like his like trying to excite people, and the crowd was like, "Yeah, I've talked to Justin Bieber. I know, I'm cool." But like it was like it was like it was really weird.
Wow.
Also, was PTA a thing for you?
PTA? Yeah. It's a
I've
thing.
never seen that before.
My
I don't know.
parents were never involved in it, but it's definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing. And you know what's interesting about it, and what I liked about this movie is that it accurately represented what a PTA meeting is like. It's a
Yeah.
bunch of busybodies coming in trying to further their own political agenda for kids. It's weird and it's bizarre, and it sounds like they were doing like a caricature of what it's like, and it's not. That like that's a real thing that happens.
Yeah.
People think, "Why are you teaching my kids this filth?" It's really well done. It felt real, man, as a movie. It felt real.
The Buccaneers traded back in to break. Buccaneers traded back in and picked Jamil Dean, cornerback, Auburn.
Boy,
Jamel, I guess.
I hope it works out for them, because they drafted 2 corners last year and only one of them really worked out. But
All right. So what's your grade for the movie?
7 out of 10.
I gave it an 8 out of 10. So
Good
we're gonna
one.
go into spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, if you just go ahead and pause it, watch the movie now. There's timestamps you want to skip forward and find our sports topics. This is your spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Here we go. Into spoilers. This is kind of. I have this whole elaborate ending explanation that you've already heard. So, what were your thoughts on the ending?
So I liked it. Like, Andy will be able to. So first off, I'm not even going to attempt to explain it as well as Andy did.
Try to explain it how I explained it.
Okay.
Without, like, off of memory.
Okay. So the way I understood the movie was there's 2 timelines. When you start the movie, you're in the what's called like a tangential
Universe.
timeline, right? Or universe, rather. Yeah. So, like, the way I view it visually, so some people view it differently, but, like, there's a main universe or timeline, right? And you would imagine that as, like, a straight line. And then there's tangents going off of that, right? Based on things that happen. When you start the movie, you're in one of those tangent universes where the jet engine lands in Donnie Darko's room. However, in this universe, he's not in the room. Right? So it lands, he has to do all these things. The reason he's doing all these things is because the rabbit fella, Frank.
Bonnie.
Okay, Bunny fella, Frank, is telling him to do this to kind of set the timelines to come back and coincide. And then at the very end, his girlfriend dies. He drives the car to the edge. There's a vortex over his house. And he uses, like, telekinetic powers to, like, have the jet engine from the plane his mom is flying back on to fall off the plane and go into the house on the main timeline to kind of reconcile the 2 timelines. It makes a lot more sense when you listen to someone like Andy explain it, or if you watch the movie yourself.
Do you think that this somewhat inspired Final Destination?
I could totally see that.
Because he got and cheated death.
He did cheat death, unintentionally,
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it kind of beautiful, though. Like, that's why I think that's why most people like this movie, is because I know there's a theory out there that he could have had the engine fall in his room and it doesn't kill him, but it still does reconcile everything. But I think it's beautiful in the end that he basically chooses self-sacrifice to save all those other people, right?
There's
that
a theory
would have
where,
been damaged.
There's a theory that it's a Groundhog Day situation where it's a constant loop.
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't kind of make sense because of some things that happen in the movie. So to get into the explanation, he kind of got it. So the airplane engine falls in Donnie's room, which causes a tangent universe or a separate universe of their own. In the universe, Donnie is led by a bunny named Frank, who he later kills in the universe, puts a bullet right in his eye, which in the movie, at some point you see, the bunny, like they're in the movie theater, Frank takes off the mask, his eye's messed up. So, due to he kills him in this universe due to the time travel stuff. Frank is allowed to come back in time and lead Donnie through various situations that he has to get into to eventually put the jet engine back into his own room, so everything can go back to the real reality. Gretchen, or his girlfriend in the movie, is also dead and she, near the end of the tangent universe, is also killed by getting ran over by a car, or get ran over by Frank. She's also sent back in time to being manipulated by like a god, like something's controlling her to get Donnie to do these tasks. Donnie is doing tasks basically to tear up the town. So basically when the two universes collide, they don't destroy or like lap onto each other and destroy. So he has to flip the town upside down basically, and he just goes through and messes everyone up. Like he destroys everybody's lives basically. This is based off of the book in the movie, Philosophy of Time Travel, which if you watch the director's cut of the movie, not the theatrical cut, it gets more in detail in the book. The book isn't actually real, so that's how you know. But in the director's cut, you get details of the book that basically shows this prophecy that Donnie like kind of fulfills, because in the book it says the person gets powers, and Donnie would have to have super strength to put the axe in the mongrel statue. And it's also apparently he has telekinesis powers to rip the jet engine off to put it into his room. And also, to quote the movie, Gretchen says to Donnie Darko, "What the hell kind of name is that? It's like some sort of superhero or something." And Donnie says, "What makes you think I'm not?" This theory is also validated by the fact that Richard Kelly also believes the creator of the movie, that's what he thinks the ending is. Which I kind of don't like. I didn't say this last night. I kind of don't like him validating or like confirming an ending. I'd rather him leave it up for interpretation.
You want him to pull a Kubrick, huh?
Like, it's better. The filmmaker should never explain the art. The artist should never explain the art.
I agree with you. I'm a big fan of that too. It's frustrating, but I get it.
I like it, but the fact that you know what you're supposed to be interpreting. But at the same time, I don't like it because it's more fun not knowing.
Yeah, I can see both sides. Overall, I kind of get the desire to explain it as a creator.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is a little bit more fun to leave it open-ended. Overall, though, I gotta say, this was a good one.
Very solid.
If you haven't watched this,
and you just listened to all that.
Yeah, like, you gotta check it out.
I think it was Stanford. They did a study, and apparently people like things if it's spoiled before they watch it. If you didn't know that.
In a weird way, that kind of makes a little bit of sense.
They gave people books, and they spoiled like half the books, and then they had it like they had a group where all the books are spoiled. They had a group where none of the books are spoiled. And they had a group where they would spoil some of the books, not spoil some of the books, and then a flip version of that group where they spoiled like the other half or whatever. And based off the reviews, the spoiled books got better ratings than the spoiled books. People that got spoiled would rate it higher than the people that didn't get spoiled.
Makes sense. So, next week, my pick.
Can I guess? I wonder what it is.
Oh, jeez. Shut up, Andy. So,
is it Land of the Lost?
No, it's definitely not Land of the Lost. So this movie recently celebrated its 40th anniversary of being released in the cinema, and it's Alien from 1979. I think it's one of the best sci-fi movies of all time. I think it's one of the best horror movies of all time. And I would encourage you, if it's the first time you watching Alien, I would encourage you to just kind of pay a little bit extra attention to some of the scenes and think, boy, have other movies lifted
Never.
or been influenced or done a homage of sorts to this movie?
Never.
Because there's quite a few. And if you ever played the Halo video game franchise, many moments from the very
Infinity
first...
War.
Yeah, there you go. Many moments from very popular movie and video game franchises lift from this movie in a very good way, by the way. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I know it's a little bit of an older movie. There is a 4K re-release of the movie that I purchased this week, and I'm looking forward to watching it in 4K for the first time ever. And Andy also informed me that they're apparently doing a limited theatrical re-release.
Yeah, I looked at the dates. I didn't last time. October 13th, 15th, and 16th. Fathom Events, which is a company that puts movies in theaters. They aren't the actual theaters doing it, so tickets will be quite expensive.
No, well, that kind of stinks.
$10 to $15 a ticket.
I will say, I did see it on the big screen one time in the early 2000s, and it was certainly worth the price. So
if we don't inspire you to watch it, go watch it on the big screen.
Well, I would tell you it's worth watching. Just like Donnie Darko this week, I would tell you it's worth watching at least one time. And I would say that about most.
Try it out.
I would say that about almost every DCD Film Club pick that we've had.
I'd say that about everything, to be honest.
Well,
I would never not recommend something. If you want to go watch Absence of Malice or Freddy Got Fingered, go for it. Have fun, bud. I hope you enjoy the movie.
Well, yeah, that's about right.
I forgot to another connection between our picks for Film Club. Donnie Darko and Freddy Got Fingered both have Drew Barrymore.
And you know what? I forgot to mention her. I thought she was really good in this movie. But I love her in anything. So, also, we're going to put up a poll this week for the fan pick, which will be for DCD 28.
Wild. It is Film Club 15?
I think so.
Yeah, it'd be Film Club number 15.
That would be, yeah. So, like, we're going to have a poll on Twitter. We're just going to go off the suggestions that that didn't win the previous round. I believe that it'll be Sleeping with the Enemy. There's Something About Mary. And I think there's one other that I'm forgetting. But
I quickly pull it up.
Well,
as I'm pulling it up, the Buccaneers traded once again back into the third round.
Really?
Picked safety Mike Edwards out of University of Kentucky.
I'm okay with that. They need every secondary player they can possibly get. So we're going to figure out who's on this poll. I think I don't want to sway the vote at all, but I would say based on the last time around, I think There's Something About Mary will probably end up winning.
I can pull up the results. The Atlas Shrugged, Something About Mary, Sleeping with the Enemy, and then the 29%. 29% went for Sleeping with the Enemy, 7 went for Atlas Shrugged, and Something About Mary.
So there you go. We're going to put those 3 up again because we picked The Lobster the last time around. And then I think after this poll, we'll probably end up just like asking for more suggestions.
Yeah.
And we'll see what goes on from there. But looking forward to it. The fan picks have been, I know I was a little bit harsh on fan picks last week, but they've been okay.
I mean,
that felt half-hearted, and I couldn't even finish it.
the fan picks have been The Lobster, which I really liked. You did not.
Nah.
The Fountain, which I didn't like, and you liked it.
That's a fair... Okay. Yeah.
Absence of Malice, which we both adored. And then Moneyball, which we both really liked.
Oh, you know what? Moneyball was a fan pick, wasn't it? Not fan pick, listener pick. I hate using the word fan, but listener pick. Okay, you know what? Moneyball and the Fountain have redeemed fan picks. So please don't let us down. Don't give me another absence of malice, for the love of God.
To be fair, well, actually, there's two listener questions you hate. But there's a movie that you've picked that I've hated, and there's a movie that I've picked that you didn't like. So there's no 100% on anyone's part.
Okay, I knew you'd hate Freddy Got Fingered.
And you didn't like Gerald's Game. Gerald's Game. Heh.
I feel like you knew people weren't going to like that one. You even admitted that movie had some shortcomings. Yeah.
Alien. Try it out. Let's get into sports.
Draft reactions.
More reactions.
You know what? I'm just gonna go through mine really quick. So, I like everybody the Bucks have taken so far. I liked getting, it's Devin White, right? I'm not making it. Yeah, okay. Devin White, first round. Thought it was a great pick. Didn't think he was going to be available. I'm fine with it. A little bit upset that they didn't take Greedy Williams in the second round, but they took another corner that I think will be very good out of Central Michigan.
To a draft, to people I trust that scout, is he's very similar to Greedy Williams, but he's a team leader and doesn't have much off-field issues. And scouts described him as he's a football player. That's what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. And, like, you know, the Bucks are doing right now, Andy mentioned earlier, they took another corner in the third. They took another safety in the third. They're being really selective with it. And overall, I'm happy with that. Because if you're the Bucks right now, you had historically, one of the worst secondaries in the NFL last year. And I would
exclusively defense too.
Yeah, I would draft almost exclusively defense. I don't feel like that offense needs any help. I feel like their offense last year was pretty good, despite Jameis Winston's shortcomings. So, pretty happy about that. Shocked that Kyler Murray went number 1 overall. Hope it works out. I don't think it will, but I hope it works out for his sake. And I got to say, if you're the 49ers, you got to be really happy because you got Nick Bosa, who I think is going to be the biggest.
Nick Bosa?
I think he's. Yeah,
Rookie of the year.
I think he's going to be the biggest impact player.
Rookie of the year.
Next year.
He's going to have 10-plus sacks this year. And then round 2, we get Deebo Samuel, the pure Kyle Shanahan guy. Kyle Shanahan's favorite wide receiver of all time is Pierre Garçon. He's basically Pierre Garçon again.
Really good pick.
And apparently he's the toughest wide receiver in the class, as said. And then in the third round, Jalen Hurd. This is the first time I think I've ever watched the 49ers have a massive wide receiver. 6'5", 230 something. He's kind of in the slow end. I think he ran, it's like a 4.6. But he's a big dude. Fun little trivia for you. The 49ers traded the 67th pick in the draft to the Saints. The Saints drafted Alvin Kamara. In college, Alvin Kamara started behind Jalen Hurd and then took Jalen Hurd's job. And then in this draft, the Saints traded the 67th overall pick to the 49ers, in which they picked Jalen Hurd.
Yeah.
Which is a little trivia. But Jalen Hurd played running back in college. He played wide receiver. He's a big bruiser. It's a solid pick.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of more chess pieces that Kyle Shanahan, the best offensive mind in football, can play with.
There's been some pretty fun stuff going on in the draft.
I think the big winners of the draft so far, obviously we had the big loser, which is the New York Giants. That's the easy one to go for. The Jets got Quinn Williams and Ja'Kai Polite, one of the best edge rushers, arguably the best defender arguably the best player in the draft, in Quinn Williams. Underrated winner is Oakland. They got the best safety in the draft, arguably the best corner in the draft, the best running back, and Cleveland Farrell. People are making fun of them because they overdrafted, but Cleveland Farrell's He's not bad. You see a guy you want, you go and get him.
You know what I really enjoyed? The Kansas City Chiefs taking Mecole Hardman, who is basically.
Have you seen his tweets?
Well, yeah, but I mean,
But yeah,
I just think it's funny that I just think it's funny that they basically draft the most Tyreek Hill-esque player they can possibly find, because I don't think we recorded last night and you said you don't think Tyreek Hill ever plays in the NFL again, and
I don't think Tyreek Hill ever plays again.
As more and more information comes out, I don't think anybody's going to want to touch him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. What a waste of talent. What a waste of talent. And you know what? I don't want anybody to sit there and hear me say that and say, oh, Alex is defending him or whatever, because I'm not. Like, I don't think there's any excuse for putting your hands on a woman, which is something he's done. I certainly don't think there's any excuse for punching your kid in the chest. I don't know where that came from. And breaking his arm, allegedly, probably not cool either. I say probably not cool. Definitely not cool. So not a good guy. I just, you know what really bothers me about it, and I said this last night, but I'll say it again. Like, he got a second chance, and there's so many guys out there who I think do deserve a second chance, and I'm a big believer in second chances because we all make mistakes, especially when we're younger, man. Like, I sit there and I think about myself when I was 17 or 18 or even in my early 20s. I was a real knucklehead. I did some stupid stuff. I'm not excusing the behavior, but I'm just saying, sometimes, it shouldn't ruin the rest of their life. They should pay the consequences and, pay their debt to society if it's a criminal offense and then move on. But he got a second chance and then he blew it. And blew it big time. And it's just going to make it harder for the next guy that wants that second chance. So, just a real shame. But, I don't know. I hope it works out for his fiance and his son. That's really all I can really say about it. And as far as old tweets, how is that dude? It's like, at this point, I hate to be like this, but isn't it kind of like, who cares at this point? Like, all these guys have old tweets, and I'm sure we could find something, right? Like, it happens every draft. It happened with Nick Bosa. It happened with him. I remember last year it happened with one of the high-profile quarterbacks. He, said the N-word, but with, the GGA version.
He said, and I quote, I'm N-word.
That's not racist. That's just...
He's calling himself the N-word.
But that's just stupid. That's not racist. It's stupid. He's trying to make a joke, and it was a bad joke. Okay, I get it, but, We're so offended by everything. We should be mad about the Tyreek Hill thing, right? That's something to get mad over. Old tweets, I don't care. I don't care. If you want to see what a typical 16-year-old posts on Twitter and see how stupid it can get, go find this guy on Twitter. It's entertaining with how stupid it is, called Chickers. He's a Baltimore Ravens diehard fan. It's at Chickers, like chicken, but Chickers. Yeah, he posts all kinds of stupid stuff, and I sit there and I look at it and I'm like, in 10 years he's gonna look back at this and go, man, I was an idiot. Entertaining, but an idiot. Young kids, they post stupid shit. I'm gonna have to bleep that out.
To go back to the draft, 5 years from now, what team had the most impactful draft?
Ooh, Raiders, to me. And the reason why is I feel like here's why I'm going to say that. It's going to be the most impactful in either a negative or a positive way, because they rolled the dice here. They traded away Khalil Mack. They traded away Amari Cooper. I actually am one of the few people who defends those moves. Both players didn't want to play there. They got good assets in return for them. If you told me you could get a first-round pick for Amari Cooper this time last year, I would have laughed at you. I would have said, you're joking. No way. They turned that into assets. I think they've got a good draft thus far. I agree with Andy on that. If those players end up being good role players for them for a long time, or a couple of them develop into stars.
They also haven't took any risky guys. They're all locker room.
Yeah, so like, I think they have the most riding on it. The second one I would pick would be the 49ers. I really like how I think they got the most impactful day one player in the draft in Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
And I think that having an edge rusher, it's right up there in terms of value with having an elite quarterback or having an elite cornerback. Like, there are very few skill positions where having an elite player at that position is like an absolute game changer.
About quarterbacks' importance. But the most important position in the draft, especially recently, has been edge rusher.
Because they affect the quarterback, which is the most important part of the team.
Yeah.
I had to throw that in there. No, but I agree with you. I agree with you. Lately, the draft has been all about getting good edge rushers.
My pick for most impactful, if everything goes right, is the Denver Broncos.
That's a good one. I like that one a lot.
Then they got Dalton Reisner, and then traded for the pick after Dalton Reisner, top tackle guy, and got their quarterback they were projected to get in the first round. And since they didn't draft him in the first round, there's not pressure. He's not going to have that he's a first-round guy pressure on him. And they have Flacco he can sit behind. If everything goes to plan, it's a very solid draft for the Denver Broncos.
I believe in John Elway. I think that I don't think the Broncos win that Super Bowl without Elway. I think him getting Peyton Manning was a high-risk move. A lot of people don't think of it that way. But going out and getting Peyton Manning, not having any idea whatsoever what kind of shape he'd be in physically, was very risky. Yeah. High risk, high reward. Elway has done a great job in Denver, and I think he's got that job as long as he wants that job.
Yeah.
And this draft is very promising. Very promising. I would also say the Cardinals, you have to look at the plethora of picks that they have. This will be a big make or break draft for them. Not just for Kyler Murray, but they had a lot of picks, overall. And they picked, a wide receiver, and I forget his name at the moment, but they went out and they got quite a few.
Andy Isabella.
Yeah, and I mean, they went out and they
ran a 4.3. Some people say he ran a 4.4, a 4.24.
I think he ran a 4.5 at the combine, though.
But he's a speedster.
Well, I mean, yeah, but here's the thing: the Cardinals are building like this really short team, and maybe that's the wave. Maybe that's the new thing. I guess, dude. I feel like they're building.
Had 11 Tyreek Hills on the field.
Now it sounds like we're building a Madden Ultimate team. To be honest with you, where speed's the only differentiating factor. But then again, there was a very high-profile scout who put his name on it, and I forget what team he works for. But this is a guy who's very well respected, and he said the biggest factor in the NFL right now is speed. He said it's the biggest differentiator between any two players in any position. So, I mean, maybe the Cardinals are onto something, and maybe the new coach, Kingsbury, Cliff Kingsbury, yeah, maybe he's, building a system that is tailored to that, kind of like what Sean Payton did. Sean Payton made Brandon Cooks look like $1 million, and he's like 5'8" on a good day.
I know we talked about this last night. You don't really like my comparison to college football, but the most dominant team in college football is the biggest team. Alabama, top to bottom, their players are simply bigger than everyone else.
You're right. I just think that it's a different league, and I think that there's different differentiating factors that play into it. I agree. Like, listen, I'm old school, right? So if you gave me a GM position tomorrow, I'm going to tell you I'm going to build my entire team inside out. I want the biggest guys up front on offense, and I want the biggest, fastest, meanest, angriest pass rushers and interior linemen in the world. I want that number.
Yeah.
And the best example I can give you of a team who is built that way and now it's paying dividends is the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns went out and they got good O-line play, good D-line play, one of the best pass rushes in the league, mostly in part due to Myles Garrett. And look at them now. They've turned things around. Another good example would be the Jaguars 2 years ago. They had the best D-line in football. I don't care what you say. They had the best D-line in the NFL that year. And they also got great offensive line play to protect Blake Bortles. So I'm with you, man. Big size. It's all about the big guys up front. But there's different methodologies, you know?
My favorite running backs of all time. Start with the dog.
It's fine.
Steven Jackson, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis,
Yep.
Frank Gore.
Yep.
I love the guys that are just like, we're going to run a dive. We're going to run straight, literally straight forward. And you just have fun stopping me.
I love Frank Gore. I think he's like you just mentioned Frank Gore, and I'm like, God, I just can't believe that guy's still playing at such a high level. But yeah, I love watching teams like that. I kind of like that old school smash mouth football, and I think it's coming back to a very small extent in what has become a very heavy pass friendly league. But I don't know.
All right, we move on to a different sport. We got basketball round 2 shaping up. Not completely done yet, but by the time this comes out, we'll be in round number 2. Currently in the situation IRL, the Warriors are destroying Clippers and will probably win the series 4-2 in Game 6.
That answers that question.
And the Nuggets and Spurs are headed to Game 7, which we don't know the results. But before we get to that, we have in the other Eastern Conference, we have the Milwaukee Bucks up against my Boston Celtics. Who you got?
I'm taking the Bucks. I hate to bet against the Celtics, but I'm taking the Bucks here.
Celtics in 6.
That's what all you Celtics fans are saying. I get it, though.
Celtics in 6. Hey, Kyrie Irving has the highest winning percentage of any player in NBA history in the playoffs.
Yeah. The East is going to be fun.
Yeah. Other side, we have Philly and Toronto. And I'm going to go with Toronto.
I'm going to go with Philly here, man. I think it's going to be Philly in 7. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be more entertaining than Bucks Celtics, and I think that's saying a lot. This is the best Eastern Conference playoffs we've had in a long time. I love it.
There's no LeBron.
I know, but it's fun because it's a lot of young kids. There's a lot of young kids on the Raptors, the 76ers, the Bucks, and the Celtics. I love it.
Since like 2007, it's always been like the Eastern Conference has always been around this time. This team could, but LeBron.
Yeah.
There's no guaranteed win. Any 4 of these teams could win the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. So
any 4 of these teams can win it all.
Going to the West.
Yeah, we have the Golden State Warriors up against the Houston Rockets. In your original prediction, if the Rockets going to the finals.
Yeah, so obviously I got Rockets here.
Yeah. And also the Rockets are well rested versus the Warriors. Warriors lost 2 games to the Clippers. One of them is not concerning. The Warriors have lost 1 game in round 1 the past 4 seasons. But the second game the Clippers won, the Clippers straight up won. The Clippers played a better basketball game the entire game. Start of the game to the end. and that's kind of concerning. The Rockets don't have the depth that the Clippers do, which is kind of the reason the Clippers won that game. Clippers are one of the depthiest teams in the league.
I like them too. They play hard.
But James Harden's playing at an MVP level. And anything can happen. The Rockets can win the series. I'm still going to go with the Warriors because it's the Warriors, but
if it wasn't for Chris Paul getting injured, I think that the Rockets go to the finals last year.
The most doubt I have in the Warriors during this dynasty.
Yeah.
On the other side, we have Portland Trailblazers up against X.
Probably the Nuggets.
So first, Nuggets. You're gonna go with the favorite. Let's do a pick for both. If Portland Nuggets, who you going with?
I'm going with Portland either way.
I don't know.
Damian Lillard is
Portland
on a
is
mission.
rested, and he is. You know, it's Dame time. The most ridiculous shot. He pulled up from the logo.
It's what elite players do.
And he's only the fourth best point guard in the league.
That's fine. You could say that if you can say that if you can make that argument if you want.
Yeah.
That if that team makes it to the Western Conference Finals, he's the best player on that team by far.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot because there's a lot of talent on those Blazers, but he's the best player on that team. He deserves a lot of credit for that. It would be one of the better single-season performances from a point guard in modern NBA history, in my opinion. It's impressive what he's done.
Yeah.
But that guy's been getting doubted his whole career. I remember when he got drafted, people were like, he's too old. He played 4 years or 3 years in college. He's too old. He's got a high floor, but not a really high ceiling. And look at him now. He's doing great. So I got the Blazers no matter who they face.
All right.
But I think they'd have a better series with the Nuggets than the Spurs.
I've been doing the opposite. I think Denver beats them in round 2. Or Portland beats Denver. San Antonio beats Portland.
That's a little bit of a hot take.
And it's hard to find out because we don't know what's going to happen. But at the other side, the first round, speaking of Damian Lillard's playoffs, Russell Westbrook has now lost in the first round 3 years in a row. What does it say about his history? When it's all said and done.
So, I like Russell Westbrook a lot. I have a lot of respect for him. I just think, unfortunately, he's that one, and every generation has a player like this. He's not going to be the best player on a championship team. He'd be the second best player on a championship team. But they've kind of built that team around him, and now there's this weird dynamic where I think, honestly, Paul George is more important.
The second best player. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's kind of my point. Is there's this weird dynamic where I think when Paul George showed up, it went from being the Russell Westbrook show to being the Paul George show featuring Russell Westbrook, and I don't know if that's creating any kind of problems or not internally. I just think when it's all said and done, unfortunately, if he doesn't win a championship, everybody's going to look at him and say he was just a guy who was good on paper. And a guy that just filled up a stat sheet, and people will wrongly accuse him of selfishly playing to try and hit triple doubles and all that.
You want to know another guard that lost 3 years in a row in the first round? Michael Jordan.
That's true. I just don't think that he's Michael Jordan. I think a better comparison would be...
I'm just saying the guy's lost 30 times the first round. People are over exaggerating.
I don't think it matters to his legacy. I don't think anybody was expecting anything. See, I think legacy really depends on expectations versus results, right? Nobody was expecting anything from the Thunder this year. Nobody was expecting them to even make it to the Western Conference Finals, much less the semis. So I don't think it hurts his legacy. I just think overall, people will. I don't think people will remember Russell Westbrook as well as Russell Westbrook would like to be remembered.
If we close the chapter, we close the book right now. Is he the greatest player to never win a ring?
No.
No.
No, get out of here with that. Charles Barkley.
Karl Malone.
Karl Malone. John Stockton. I wouldn't even put him as the best point guard to never win an NBA championship. I give it to John Stockton, and here's why. John Stockton ended his career leader in assists, career leader in steals. He was a phenomenal defensive player, one of the best passers in the league. He was also a very good shooter to boot. I would also put, I know this is going to be a controversial one.
Westbrook or Allen Iverson?
I take Iverson. I liked Iverson a lot, but that's a tough one. That's a close one too.
Westbrook or Nash?
I was just about to bring up Steve Nash.
Oh.
Here's the thing about Steve Nash. Terrible defender, absolute rubbish as a defender, and I think that's one thing that hurts his legacy. But Steve Nash was one of the best spot-up shooters I've ever watched in my life. Like, the shooting off the dribble, okay, right? He was good, but he wasn't, like, unbelievably good. As a spot-up shooter, one of the best I've ever seen. So, and he deserved those MVPs that he won in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So,
one more. Russell Westbrook or Reggie Miller?
ooh, I gotta go Reggie. Reggie was sick, bro. Go back and watch some old Reggie Miller tape. That guy was clutch. I think
He's 30 for 30.
I just think that Russell Westbrook's book isn't completely written yet. I think he has a lot of time. And I think that if he continues at the pace he's going, every one of those guys that you just mentioned, he'd be right up there with them. But right now, as it sits right now, I think he's about halfway through his career. And I feel like he's probably got about five. I think he's probably got.
I don't think he's even close to halfway.
Well, I think that he's got probably about 5 or 6 more peak years. And then he's probably got another 5 or 6 good years.
Oh, he's 30 now? Jesus.
Yeah, I think he's got another.
He's like 27.
He's probably got another 5 or 6 peak years tops. And then after that, he might get a couple more. So, I don't think his career is over yet. I applaud his loyalty to Oklahoma City. It would have been very easy for him to bail.
I thought of a more modern one. Westbrook or Chris Paul?
That's a tough one, man. I'd probably go Westbrook.
I finally got you to get Westbrook.
Well, you're comparing when you say Westbrook.
I'm just saying. I was trying to see how far I could go.
No, see, I'm not a Westbrook hater. I really don't, and I think that honestly, I think the media did a terrible job of piling on him this week. So shame on them. But he's a great player. He's one of the best in the NBA right now. I just think that it's really important to keep in mind that he's never going to be first banana on a championship team. He's going to be second banana.
Who's winning else? The Rockets.
I'm sorry?
So who's winning it all?
The Rockets.
All right. I think that's an episode.
Well, yeah, it definitely is. Real quick, before Andy goes into his stuff, I just want to remind you guys, t-shirt link, again, description. Buy a t-shirt. They're like $13 to $18, depending on the sales on TeePublic. And they come out really nice. We sent one to Brian Shoup, who won our NCAA tournament bracket. By the way, Brian, send us a picture of you wearing the shirt. You don't even have to put your face in there if you don't want to, but we'd love to see you wearing it. And then Andy's wearing one today, and it looks really good, so you can do that. If you're watching the video version of this podcast and you're going, man, I really wish there was an audio-only version, there is. It's on iTunes, Spotify, basically everything other than SoundCloud. I'm working on maybe getting us on iHeartRadio. I found out that we're not on there, so maybe we get on there. And then if you're listening to the audio only version, you're going, man, they keep talking about all this weird stuff, and I don't know what they're talking about. Well, there is a video version on YouTube that you can watch too. So check us out there. And then finally, you can leave us a review on iTunes. And if you do, I'll give you a shout out and a fun fact about yourself. It doesn't even have to be a 5-star review. Just leave a review and make sure you put your name on the review. Because if you just give us a star rating, it doesn't tell me who did it. You have to leave like a written review. It's weird.
Follow us on Twitter at Dejan Duo Pod. Or it's just at Dejan Duo.
Yep. And we're on Facebook too, and we're also on Instagram, but we're not very active on either. Anyway, Andy, go into your sports Boston talk.
Celtics, we're beating the Bucks. Game 6, I already said it. The Bruins, we're up 1-0 against Columbus. Game number 2, I believe, is when this comes out on Sunday. Or no, it'll be Saturday. Hopefully we're up 2-0. The playoffs are wide open. You don't follow hockey. So to make the comparison from hockey to NHL, imagine if the Warriors and the Bucks both lost in the first round and the Warriors got swept. That's what's going on in hockey right now.
It's anybody's game at that point.
It's anyone's game. The Bruins have the best record of the remaining teams. And it's just the last 3 champions. I don't remember who won it 4 years ago. Last 3 champions are out. The Penguins are out. It's wide open for the Bruins. Anyone can win it. It's absolute insanity. Even the St. Louis Blues could win it, and they've never won one ever. It's wild. And also, to kind of plug my own stuff, College Dropouts Podcast, episode number 1, dropping tomorrow. Check it out.
That's a revelation.
Sports podcast for me and a couple buds. College Dropouts Podcast. Check it out on YouTube. And I think that's the only thing it's going to be on for the episode 1. We'll work on iTunes and stuff. But that's everything for me.
Well, if you need any help on that, let me know. I'd love to help you guys out. Because I definitely went through all the growing pains of getting this. I've done podcasts in the past, but we never did the audio-only version on those, regrettably. And really happy that we got it done on this podcast. So, Andy, if you need any help with that, definitely let me know. Check out College Dropouts. I'm looking forward to it. They got a cool logo. They're going to have T-shirts, too, so that's pretty cool.
We have T-shirts.
Well, there you go. They have T-shirts as well. So... that's going to do it for DCD 26. I appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next week.